Welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of Fruta Fresca with Jose Richard Aviles. Ya se sabe lo que se viene, el chile pa' tu fruta. This is hilarious. I think it's growing on to me the more we say el chile pa' tu fruta, because now I'm thinking, what kind of chile? Like, has anyone ever put on serrano chile on your fruta? Like,
that doesn't sound good, does it? Serrano? Have you tried that shit?
No. Ay, amigas. Pues ya escucharon el invitado de hoy. ¿Cómo están, amigas? It's exciting to come back. I'm home. Look, in another lifetime, this episode would have probably been recorded online, but I'm home. So I'm glad to be here. Y'all, I have the guest for today. I would describe this guest as duro, firm, firm, gentle, talentoso, nice, charismatic. Y güey, ¿sabes qué? The one thing I've always loved about you is your smile. You have a very nice smile. Y'all, I have Goya Robles today. ¿Cómo estás, Goya?
I'm good, man. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I know we talked about doing this for a bit, so it's good to do it in person.
Yeah.
You know, I try to meet in person as much as possible, considering how much I'm not around,
100%. I know a couple of listeners right now. I know you got a little tinkle, bitch. Yeah, because the voiceover, that's a nice voice, bitch. Hope you enjoyed it. You're welcome. Listen, Goya. No, I hear that, and I'm so glad to be in person with you. And again, I feel, we've met online, and we had an opportunity to also then, meet in person. So to do that again in person, I always have good conversations with you. So I'm grateful. Do you mind if I dive in?
Dive, let's go.
Okay, espérate. Pero primero, se sabe that every time a new guest comes on, we ask the question, Goya, if you were to be a fruit, what fruit would you be and why?
When you sent this question, I was like, I never thought of that shit. I was like, what kind of fruit am I? I was thinking probably like a pomegranate. You know what I'm saying?
Stop it.
That shit is like, you gotta open that shit, and then you have to pry that shit open, and then it's the abundance of fruit that's in there, but it's like not too sweet, and it's like it has the seed part of it that's a little. I would say that's me.
Friends, yes, if you have been listening to Fruta Fresca since the first episode, somebody once asked me what type of fruit I was, and grapefruit was one of them. But one of the other episodes, when I first started the podcast, I was like, let me be real with y'all. If I were to be a fruit, granada, which is a pomegranate.
There you go.
And literally, you described me, and I was like, Goya just wrote a poem about me. Yes. But no, it's the same thing, right? The seeds and like the whole ritual of eating a pomegranate.
You got to work. You got to work to eat that.
Yeah. Listen, and just when you think you got your pearls, we come with a little bitterness. I love it, chicas. You know what? I feel like we need to all go make a salad and put pomegranate seeds on the salad.
Con chile.
Bomb. Oh, con chile. El chile pa' tu fruta. I love it. Makes sense. Listen, we were just having this conversation before we started recording, and so I want to frame it a little bit differently. But I wanted to ask you about home, and we had a conversation before this about LA, and LA being my home and what that means. So the way I'm gonna frame it, I think for you is what's in home for you. What constitutes home? Don't think about place, but what's in home?
Right. So it's interesting because I seek the experience of home. It used to be just associated with where my family lived, where my my community, which is a legitimate part of what I feel home is. But when I moved to LA like 12 years ago, that was an issue for me. Like I never felt like home, and I went through this huge depression trying to muster my way through living here, and it got to the point where I'm like, if I don't deal with what's happening in my loneliness and my discomfort and being in a new place and still not finding my footing, then who knows what have happened. I deal with mental health as a thing for me, and so it wasn't until I started asking the question, like, well, how am I going to create the experience of home wherever I go? And so when I started diving into that and living into that question, I started like, what does my actual home look like? I built a shrine, kind of figured it out on my own, things that really have meaning to me. And I found that ritual was a huge way to enter into the space and the feeling that I get when I am at home and I'm eating a home cooked meal for my mom, or I'm in my old bedroom in my bed, and so everything in my like, for example, my apartment has deep meaning to me. And whenever someone enters into my apartment, they like, I love seeing their first expression, because it's like they kind of thrown off in the best way possible. Like, I wouldn't never expected it for it to feel the way it does. And so for me, the home is a place of just where I take the mask off, where I'm not. Where I don't. There's when I'm in the world, I have the mask on, which means I'm conscious of protecting myself. I'm still able to connect and to deal with people and the environment. But when I'm home, I don't want to have to deal with that shit. I want to be, and so that's, same thing when I get a job. How do I create home when I'm in Vancouver shooting something, or how do I, or in New Mexico or whatever? And so I have like my little portable shrine that I put with pictures and things like that, and I set it up in a way so that I feel I'm proactive with the experience. So
I love the fact that you said a shrine on the go.
Yeah, it's for real.
I mean, you think a little something with you, be like, ooh, and not know where it's at. Nobody knows where it's at but you. I love that. Interesting that you said that the space where you take mask off. As I mentioned to you earlier that I came home earlier than I thought I was going to be home, and that and I was thinking, as you said that, I was processing, maybe, but why? Was I tired of the weight of the mask for I was like, listen, 3 days, that's enough. Que fuertecito. I love that, huh? And what are some of the sounds? I'm curious to now think, because you mentioned earlier from Connecticut, so I think what are some of the things of Connecticut that live in your home now?
Something in Connecticut that live in my home. I never thought about it that way. Not much.
That's real.
No, not much. Just like Connecticut. Well, the things that are in my home are things that are like from my family. Things that are connected to different people in my family and different experience and pictures and mementos and things like that. Connecticut is, it's not really. I never even found my footing like that in Connecticut. The only reason I have a connection to it is because, so much of my family is there, between there, and I have some family in Jersey, and so. But the actual Connecticut, I don't know. It's not really my vibe either,
Right.
Yeah.
They need more chile in their fruta.
Oh, for sure. They don't even know what chile is.
Yeah. They call it child.
Actually, if I'm being honest, there's a lot of like
Chile the country.
Yeah, I think in the inner city there's a lot of black and brown folk.
For sure.
But outside is like skim milk.
Yeah, and you
you know what I mean?
This was it, skip milk. Yeah. And you know what? And I think a lot of the places, that one thing I've learned about the East Coast, I don't think I've ever been to Connecticut, but I feel like in East Coast places, like because there's not as dense cities, you can see more vividly the separation between a suburb and a city. Like, you think of a suburb in LA and you're like, what the fuck, Agoura Hills? But that's an hour and a half drive out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean,
At least when I think about
yeah,
Minnesota and what I know.
yeah. I mean, actually, the cities, depending on where you go, can be quite dense. Like,
yeah.
you know, you go to Stanford, you go to Bridgeport, you go to New Haven, you go to Hartford. They're like densely populated cities, but they're you know, and usually 30 minutes to an hour away from each other. You know, so in between, you have a lot of like, you know, I mean, Connecticut's super green. There's like mad trees. That's one of the things I do like about Connecticut is just how green it is, and I'll be on my hippie shit. You know what I mean? I like trees. I'll fucking hunt the shit out of a tree.
You stupid. I love it. Yeah. You know, it's interesting. I love the fact the way you started talking about home and ritual. And I love the fact that you described it as ritual, because I do think in the conversations that you and I have had and what I know of you, I see you in ritual very much so. You know, whatever that means to you. Quick little context for folks. También para que sepan, I met Goya. I met Goya on that app que nomás duró como dices tú el año. Nomás el año. I know some of you were on it. Shout out to las desmadrosas. I know you know who you are. Pero we met on Clubhouse.
That's right. They got just in them rooms. I think I was like, they had a room where it was like spoken word and shit, and I got on there, and then it was just those rooms always evolved into some other shit.
Sí.
Yeah.
And then someone we both know have a mutual friend, like Jessica Salgado.
Oh yeah, Jessica's a whole ass complex, lovable fire person.
100%. Shout out to Jessica and all her mangoes. Mangoes. Every time someone brings up mango and fruta fresca, I think about Jessica. So yeah, we met on Clubhouse, and I remember one of the conversations that we had. Curious, I think, asking a lot about performance. Now, you started in theater.
I actually started with music.
Shut the front door.
Yeah. I started with music. I would like hit like hip hop, straight like lyricist type. That was kind of my introduction into the performance space, and then that was like in '96, and then actually funny stories is I remember like my first rhymes. I was like, they were so violent and so like, and I remember I went to my boy and I was like, yo, check this out. And I started spitting, and then after I was done, he was like, bro, that shit was trash. I was like, damn, man. Like, he goes, why don't you write something that means something? Like, this doesn't mean shit. Like, means something. So, you know, I went back and I wrote something. I was like, that meant something to me, that it caused me, like, I went to do research. That's when the beginning of the research around what it meant to be a brown person just kind of started from there. And I went back, saw him a week later, just walking in the street, and I remember reciting it for him, and it like blew his mind. The difference between the week before and then, and so just to see his reaction, I was like, yo, all right, I think I'm gonna go down this path, you know.
Cool.
But I think it was the slam poetry that when I got into that, I got my little ass heart broken back in what was it, like 2001 or some shit like that. And I was like, man, I wrote a piece and started performing, and then, you know, I was a horny little dude back then too, so I was like using all my spoken words to like just bag all the little baddies and shit, you know.
Qué fuerte.
Yeah. So that's how the introduction into the stage, and then it's always a girl, man. I got into the theater because there was this girl that I was really trying, like, digging, and I went to go see her play, and she was good in it. And it was called Plátanos and Collard Greens. And she was good. And I went to see her again because I'm trying to lock it in. And the second time she played a different role, and I had a different experience. And that's why I was like, yo, this is dope. To go to a theater to see the same piece and have a different experience. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go. Let's see what's up. And so I auditioned for the Actor Studio Drama School, the graduate program. It was the first audition I ever had in my life. I'm like 24 years old, and that was my like legit introduction into the theater.
It's where to go. I mean, you said some beautiful things. Such a great storyteller. And the reason I ask particular about Ritual and not knowing the music thing, I'm like, I'm gonna go here. One of the, I think my favorite questions to ask specifically artists and performers more than anything, there's this magic about the stage. And I think we can all collectively agree as people who know what this magic is, that can, acknowledge its existence, but it's so different for everybody. So I would love to hear, how do you define that magic of the stage? I feel like you gave me something with audience, but that stage, when you're on it, what's that magic like for you?
Like, it's unpredictable. Like you just don't. There's something about being in it. There's no cut. There's no action. There's no setting up a shot to reshoot. There's no like once you get up there, you start. You got to deal with people, and the energy of the people is different every time. I've spit a piece, or I've done a play, and it's the same play, or it's the same, spoken word piece or whatever it is I'm on stage. But I get it's a different experience every time, because you're dealing with different people who are dealing with different things, and I think the beautiful thing about it too is like, how do you stay open in it, and I mean, theater is my first love. If I could live off of just doing theater, that's what I would do. I'm appreciative of my film career, my TV career, and things are popping in that, and I maximize my artistic expression in those mediums. But like theater, I mean, I just the rehearsal process, rehearsing 4 to 8 weeks, 5-6 hour days. Building community, building family with the cast members, and then as soon as the show goes up, once that curtain goes up, you gotta go. You just gotta go. There's no stopping until you're done. And there's something about that experience that's it's shit, man. It's healing as shit. It's invigorating. They say that film is the director's medium, but the theater, right?
I love that.
Yeah, well, because it's the director's 100%. Vision, right? It's just what they see. So the actors are just another instrument, and telling that vision. But the theater is the actors. Once rehearsals are done, the director, there's nothing they can do. It's only in the hands of the actor, right? And so it's like practice. It's like you keep doing the same piece over and over again. You keep practicing. You're gonna find new shit all the time. You're gonna get more comfortable in it, more. So yeah. So that's,
it's fun. God damn it, Goya. Saludcita.
Saludcita.
I think I'm down for a second.
Me too. What's up?
Amigas, pausa. Ahorita vamos a llegar al intermission. Espérense.
That's hilarious.
Actually, producer, can we do that? Can we check? Can we? I just want to check in on time. If I can ask one more question.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, cool. Oh, cute. Let me ask one more question.
Dale.
And then hacemos la pausita.
Dale.
But shout out to Dilo, amazing trans actor from Sri Lanka. We had him maybe a couple episodes ago, depending when folks are listening to this. But Dilo describes it as like the artwork and then the career work, and finding the balance between the two. So interesting to you, my question for me, I love the chaos. I love that you said hyper. What was the first word that you used? Unpredictable. Because to me, I love that. It makes me hyper vigilant. You know, I think when people think we say performative, there's a difference between performative and performativity, like what performance is. You know what I mean? Because I think performative is also can be fake. Let's be real.
Well, the thing is about performance, which is a word that I try to not to use. I think for me, the word I refer to is rehearsal. It's a It's a rehearsal in front of people. It's 100, a rehearsal because that means it's always something that I'm looking to play or to like I don't take it for granted if it's a rehearsal versus if it's a performance. It's like I'm trying to replicate something over and over again, which takes you out the moment.
Yeah. I love that. I love that distinction. No, and I totally agree with you. For me, you know what it is? It's the this idea of having to like, I feel when I'm on stage, I'm hyper present. Like just when someone walks in late, the responses of jokes that are not landing. You could feel that conversation you're having with the live audience, and it's the struggle to stay in that state of presence. I think that back and forth between it is fun because I also can go in trances. I mean, let's be real. Yeah. You asked me to perform a piece right after I don't know what I did. Like, you know? And so I love that constant battle back and forth. What I'm recognizing now, too, is that it's addictive. Oh, listen, I now make a joke about how I haven't had dick in 3 months, so I just hold on to microphones. So good.
So shit, that's that desmadre part you was talking about.
Listen, it's always ratchet. It's, dude, les cuento el episodio. Este es el episodio del chismecito. Eso les viene después. Flag it, hold me accountable. Pero no, that's some shit that just happened. But no, being able to again be that present and be in that chaos. I think it's with that. I'm addicted to chaos.
Well, I think I just did a show at the Actor Studio in New York, and I when I would perform, I break the fourth wall, and now like when I look at people, I connect with them so deeply that like the thing is about when you're connecting with someone, especially when you're on the stage and you're giving them, but you're literally connecting with them as if you're speaking with them, you risk getting lost. You risk losing your place in what you were saying, right? But that's one of the things that's probably for me the most invigorating. It's like, yo, like I'm at a point in my life where I don't give a shit. Like if I lose my place, I'm gonna find it, but you're gonna remember the connection.
100%.
Like you're gonna hit this, you know, and that's one of the main things that went after the show where people were like, yo. I was like, the minute you looked at me and it felt like you were talking to me, like I was not prepared for that. I'm like, yeah.
You know what's interesting? Oh, I'm loving this conversation with you. I feel like I'm learning a lot. Thank you. I'm like, I'm gonna go listen back to the podcast. Oh yeah, I listen to my own episodes. I'm like, at least there's one listener. No, always be me. But I also enjoy it. It's really fun to like revisit conversations. But so I'm taking notes. Ay, ¿ves? Hablando de perderte. Ay, amiga, se sabe que una aquí siempre se fuma el churrito y me perdí. Perdón, pero ya me encontré. But you know what I was thinking? Thank you. Thank you, Thank you, Ryan. Me perdí, pero ya me encontré. I think that's why, to me, I took such an unconventional route to performance. I mean, I'm trained as a dancer and choreographer. So when you make the metaphor about that film is literally just the director's vision, I think dance so much is that it's the choreographer, but the dancers, are really now generating the movement, and that's a little different, right? Versus text, which is more tangible per se than movement. Like whose is what? You know what I mean? So interesting. I love that you brought that metaphor. I think because of that, I only thought about in my dance education that my way to be fulfilled as an artist was to be part of a dance company. And for whatever reason, for whatever body politics and shit, my own shit that I was figuring out as a dancer, that never happened for me. But I learned to find poetry. That I found poetry and spoken word in some ways. And then I realized, bitch, you don't need a company. You are a one-person show. So as you were talking about the speaking directly to the audiences and those connections, it was like, oh my God, that's all I do. But I think part of it, I crave for something more like a structure of theater. I reflect back and look at friends who did theater, who studied theater, people who've done theater. And that's, I think, one of my fears, memorizing and losing myself and not coming and, porque yo me pierdo.
Yeah, but I think like, I think that's part of, the appeal. And also it's important for people who are watching to see that if you don't have it all figured out, if you drop a line, if you lose yourself, who are you in those moments? Right? A lot of times we're so chasing perfection to the point where we realize, where you forget that being is will never fit in any box that you of perfection that you try to put it in. Like the first night that I was performing at the actor studio, like a week ago, I was in it, and I forgot where I was, to the point where in the middle of the performance, my director's on the balcony. I'm like, bro, what's the next line, bro? Like I'm and we started having like this dialogue, and then I found my place, but I wasn't beating myself up. I wasn't like making it mean anything about me, my artistry. I wasn't making it mean shit. And there was something about that when I found it. Because I wasn't beating myself up, I was able to come back to it and dive in even deeper into
100.
the experience. And it was one of the things that even my director, after, he was like, yo, you have no idea the magic that was, because people really got to see the kind of like the mastery of what it of finding your way and letting go of all judgment, and
you know what the first thing that came to my mind is? I'm like, no sé de la cual fumé, pero me encanta. I'm like, I'm gonna take another one because I'm here. There's something, and it goes back to what you said, right? Like, it matters to the people who are watching. Like, I think in that moment, what you described to me sounded like you were in service to the audience. Like, this is what fucking happening, and whatever emotion I'm coming from whatever lines is. I mean, I don't know what the emotions are, but coming from that space, I'm gonna commit to that, and that's what you're gonna witness. Ow,
and I have
magic.
I have a friend that said,
I'm like, that sounds like a talented performer.
I appreciate that. It's been I've been doing this for a while, but a friend of mine years ago told me, as an artist, you have to have something called benevolent disdain, right? So the benevolence is like, yeah, I do this for you. I'm in service. This is like I'm here to offer myself and use myself as a channel for you. The disdain part is, fuck you. I'm doing this for me. Right? Like I show up, I'm giving myself the gift of fully embodying where I'm at, with free of judgment, free of giving a shit about what you think I should be.
100%.
Right? So how do you have those two? So that's
100%.
been kind of like a focus of mine.
Okay, perfect. I love this so much. I'm gonna segue us into part 2, because I feel one of the things that was very interesting to talk to you about with someone with an extensive film and movie. ¿Cómo se llama eso?
Catalog.
Ay, mira.
You're
sí,
welcome.
Okay, that's the word.
You're
okay,
welcome,
thank you.
chacho, por
Okay,
ahí,
Thank you. Because in my mind,
no te voy a cobrar para eso, pay.
Ay, qué fuerte, amigas. Dices tú, graben, download this motherfucking episode. Porque cuando el güey tenga una nominación, I'm gonna be like, what? This shit go all viral. Hashtag Goya Robles, dices tú. I'm gonna remember this moment. How dare you? See, there's that disdain. He just said, fuck you. But I want to transition us a little bit into the conversation, because it's so much that the benevolence disdain. I love it. Ya se me quedó grabado. Because I'm thinking, I had a situation recently where in that moment, you know how people were reacting a certain way to a poem, and I always do my gender pronoun poem because it's what people like it. And there's no way to describe myself, then this is what I become. And there were some situations and some like gasps that happened, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. I'm gonna give you the sex poem now. And they were not ready. And I had fun. To me, that was my disdain of like, listen, my shit is cute and you'll react to it. And we have moments where you can feel a lot of things, but there's that one part. Oh, bitch. But I wanna ask you, we've talked a lot about ritual, the magic, the audience, the benevolence, disdain, and all of that comes from live, from a live stage. What have been, I'm curious now to ask about the set life because listen, a bitch doesn't have my catalog no existe, güey, no existe. El mío dices tú, pero un documentary, pero hace años. And the only sets that I've been on, the experiences that I have had, it's a very interesting space. You wait a lot.
Wait a lot. Yeah.
How have you found ritual on set?
You need ritual on set. That's actually when you need it the most, because the space is not conducive for your creativity. You know, you have the lighting, you have the grip, you have the cinematographer trying to set up the best shots, you have all the PAs running around making sure that everything's flowing. You have the first AD who's trying to make sure that that everything is on time, and that, you know, because if we go overtime, you got pay that comes out of the budget, right? So you have all these different factors that have nothing to do with what you as an artist are getting paid to do. So how do you hold yourself accountable as the artist to make sure, because you're not going to get it from the environment, 1,000%. I've tried and failed. So I needed to create a ritual. And so my ritual, right, there's a huge difference between habit and a ritual, right? A habit is like, you know, wake up, you brush your teeth, and certain, maybe you have a cigarette, you know, maybe you have your coffee, the things that you do without thinking about, right? A ritual is like, nah. A ritual is a habit with intention, right? You say, this space I declare for it to be so and so, and it will be that. And you whether you set up a shrine, whether you set up whatever it may be, it's rituals. It's not about being right about it. It's just about making sure that you intentfully create a space so that you can let your mask off. When I'm on set without ritual, my mask stays on and I don't know how to take it off. Right? So I'm accountable to fulfilling what my job is. And if my job is to be vulnerable and the space is not designed for that, what am I doing to make sure that it doesn't matter what my environment is? And let me tell you, I've been on sets. You know, I've been on multi-million-dollar sets. I've also been on sets where there's nothing. I don't have a room. I don't even have a room or a trailer or nothing. I gotta find like a little closet somewhere and kind of set up my little shrine. But like, I'll do it. One time I even set up in a bathroom by the bathtub. You know what I mean? But that's what I had. That was my space. And so that's what I did. And I set up my stuff. I did my prayers. I put on a specific music that kind of got me in my body. And it was all those things that allowed me. So by the time I showed up on set, I'm ready. My mask is off. I'm willing to play. You know, and I think a lot of times artists rely on inspiration to move.
Yeah.
Right? But if you wait on inspiration, it's unpredictable. You never know. You never know when you're going to be inspired if you just leave it to chance. You know, and it's so easy to get in your head. Anything can get you in your head. Especially if you have expectations. And on the set, if you have any expectation that you're going to get what you need, you're not gonna, this is just not gonna happen. So ritual is like a grounding. Ritual is like, yo, I don't care what happens around me. Like this is me. This is my experience of home. This is my opportunity to say my mask will come off because I declare this to be my safe space to go anywhere I need to go. And so that's kind of how I manage, especially on like film sets, because it's so chaotic, you know, and none of what's happening in the environment has anything to do with helping me figure out that space, you know.
Salud.
Salud.
Ay, amigas, no sé, qué fuerte. See, this is what happens. Look, we're slowly started. The first half of this episode was us trying to break out a shell of a pomegranate, and I feel like we're just getting to the good seeds. But the last ones, ahorita que cambiamos un poquito la conversación, you gonna get a little bitterness. Oh, this is an experience, bitch. Comes en una pomegranate. I love that. Oh, of course you had such a beautiful answer, and thank you. And how humbling. I feel like from what I know and from what I've, been around, particularly in the industry, because I don't think necessarily I'm in it, but I feel like I'm adjacent. Like I'm learning some shit, tú sabes, se ve. I think that's such a most beautiful answer that I heard, and honest, especially in a place like this and in the industry that we talk about. So thank you. Thank you. Because I feel like I could never. I think about if I ever transitioned into like something like that, I couldn't. I'm not someone that goes and. I wouldn't want to be typecasted. I need people to write for me.
You're gonna have to do that
because I'm like I can't.
No one's gonna write. Let me tell you, I've gotten my success through playing roles that depict brown folk as, some type of criminal element. That's just what it's been.
100%.
You know what I mean? And with the exception of Tokyo Cowboy, which was a blessing to have that. But most of the stuff that I'm in, and mind you, I'm friends with like different showrunners and people who have cast me and stuff. I'm grateful for the opportunities of visibility I've gotten, but we're not just cartel people. We're not just people on the street. We're not just like drug addicts. We're not, they are part of our community, but it's a fraction of what represents. Like we're so rich, in culture and family, I had to write something. I had to literally sit down and write a story in order for it to be in something that's gonna reflect that world.
And listen, you're a beautiful writer. I mean, that poem you wrote about me in the beginning. Thank you, Marquez. Eso se llama comeback. Remember, aquí tenemos the 9 ways to make someone to elicit laughter. Yeah. Bitch, she applies it. That's beautiful. So you're writing now. I want to ask about the writing. So where I want to go with this, full transparency, I want to ask about some of those characters that that you've talked about. Particularly, I feel like acclaimed for Get Shorty. We gotta go there, and I want to know. We're gonna talk about that, but before I get to that, one question that I have. You talked about ritual. You talked about shrine. The one moment that I feel like is such an interesting moment. I want to hear what your ritual is. That space between action and go. Because I feel, at least for me, before I get on the stage and I'm going to do what I'm going to do, I have my own little ritual. And I could only imagine what it would look like when, again, we're talking about, being the film is the director's vision. I feel like if somebody says action, I'll be like, okay, bitch, let me take a breath. Hold on, espérate. Okay, cool. Just that little something. But I feel like it's so quick. So I wonder, what is that like for you?
You mean the moment, like right before they say action, and because for me, like I don't wait to act. It's between action and cut. 100. You know what I mean? Like,
tú ya empezaste.
No, I'm already like, by the time I went through a whole shit in my trailer. You know what I mean? Like, if I told you what happened in the trailer and the craziness that I do to get into a character and the energy to 100. Go is wild. That's just as unpredictable as anything. 100. But once I'm on stage, once I'm on set, I'll sometimes I'll improv with the actors beforehand, like just get in the moment. So by the time they yell action, the scene had already started.
100%.
You know what
Bitch,
I mean?
I was waiting on you.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, bro.
See, I feel because I love the chaos. If I ever got an opportunity to play a character that was saying some shit, not even. I feel like me. That's desmadrosa for sure. I feel like in that pre-ritual, I love that. I love that you're like, bitch, I came in. Like, what's up? I love that. I would probably scream to the director, bitch, I was waiting on you. But I'm gonna give you magic after, you know?
Yeah.
I love that. See, it's another question that I've never I've been curious about. Huh. Pinche güey. Ay, no, qué fuerte, qué fuerte. So let's talk a little bit about Shorty and Yago. What do you think is a lesson that you've learned from that role?
That
You can contextualize it para la gente, para
yeah,
los que estén
yeah.
aquí. Porque that's a big question.
Yeah. Well, first of all, the role. So when I got the audition for that project, and after I booked it, my one of my peoples goes, "Yo, the name of that character is the same 4 letters of your name." And I'm like, "What?"
Oh shit.
Yo, I was like, yo, that was that universe shit. Like, what the
shit,
fuck?
Bitch.
Yo, I was like,
bitch,
wow,
I snorted, y'all.
Yeah.
Edit that out, producer. Edit that out.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it was so crazy. It's so crazy. It just flipped. It's like the letters are flipped,
Yeah.
and you know, I never paid attention to it until someone pointed it out, and that character, I think, because I tend to go inward. Like when I'm dealing with shit, I'm dealing with life, I go inward so much. And Yago allowed me to use everything that I am, but outward, right? To like not hold on to it. You know, a huge part of that character, when I embodied that character, was, yo, everything that I'm going through is everyone else's fault, right? Now, that's not a great human trait to have in practice, right?
But we have our moments.
right, but being able to embody that character and have what I'm going through and have it go outward, outside of my body, not critique myself, not judge myself, not do all these things that I normally used to do, gave me just like I got to be in my body in a whole different way. Like I just felt strong. I felt, you know, it made me realize the power of my voice and giving it and making sure that I make room. That it's not just about internalizing everything and going inward. And it was something about going outward that just helped me understand the depth of how I can give myself to other people, to the world. Like, so I think that's the biggest lesson that I learned, which was so useful. And so now I still go inward, but I make sure that I give myself the space to like really speak my shit. You know what I mean? I have a lot to say. I try to be intentful, and when I say it, you know, so that it means more and it's more impactful. I'm not sure I was as effective with it before Yago. You know, so that's what I think. And Yago is just like so braggadocious, and so it was something nice about always, you know, believing that you fly and shit. So I stole a little bit of that motherfucker too. So
what's up?
Yeah,
That's
man.
cute. You know what I often think about? I think one of the other, like, I just realized, amigas, you're welcome. Aquí les acabamos de traer otra masterclass because I feel like a bitch is always in beautiful conversations and learning so much about the craft with the last couple of guests we've had. It's been an honor. Qué fuerte, qué bonito. One of the things I've always talked about, because again, you know, if in every moment, the only connection I could have, and I feel what I've understood about acting, it's not something I'm trained in. I think as someone who studied dance, I take a lot of, you know, pride in the fact that estudié lo que estudié, hicimos lo que hicimos. We did choreographies that make no fucking sense. And so I feel like I still dance school taught me to be an artist. But now I know that I could do more other things, and being a committed, to me, it's the stage. And I feel like I've learned now that you can also create your stage. And I feel what
Mm-hmm.
we've been talking about in acting is a lot of creating the stage. So I've always talked about like, how do you relate to characters? And the only insight that I have is social work. So I'm like, oh, they're gonna be my clients. If I can understand qué chingadita está pasando allí, okay, ya entiendo. Ya
Mm-hmm.
entiendo. I can go. The inward part is something so beautiful and magical, right? Like you're talking about that. Even then, you're able to take something away from Yago.
Well, I try. I mean, all the characters that I do my best to find. There's something called a core wound, right? So like everybody has a core wound, right? So so a big part of my process is like asking myself, this character, what is their core wound? Where is the moment in their life where their body, mind, spirit says, danger, I have to survive this. What is that moment? And it makes the most despicable characters relatable, and humanizes them, you know. So I think I think it's extremely important, at least for me. I don't know how other people work, but I know for me, the minute I find that, it brings things alive in a different way.
No, I love the fact that you called it literally, basically, exactly that, right? What is the core wound? I think about that. I mean, no, but let me not think about it. People on the podcast know. People on the podcast know. They know that my core wound I'm discovering now is puppy issues, which is I gotta talk to you about that offline. Pero what do you think was then the core wound of Yago?
Just like I'm not enough.
Uy,
Yeah, that's why he was always trying to like trying to get the approval of his aunt. Nothing he did was good enough for his aunt.
100%.
You know what I mean? And so it's like, and so many people can relate to that core wound. I'm like, nothing I do will ever be enough. And there's so much behavior that comes from that. So, um, Yago, listen, man, like, I'm proud of the work I did with Yago, because I know that dude, he I love humanizing villains. It makes people deal with the fact that they're human and they could have been just like you if you were in that circumstance.
Oof. Oof.
So it doesn't condone the actions. It just makes them human.
100%. You just gave me a Toni Morrison moment. Oh, shout out to Toni Morrison. You said that, and I feel like some of the best told stories and the best performances that I've seen have been those moments where you think of, like, you humanize a villain, because like you said, right, there's this thing that everything that happened to you in the case of Yago, it's everybody else's fault. I have those moments all the time, and now you're telling me like, oh, I got an opportunity to like play it into that, lean into that. Down. Mm-hmm. There's something about fragmentarte that I love, the fragments. But but I love that type of work. I also, we know you've played some intense characters. In those moments of intensity, I'm making it vague so you can pick whatever character you want to talk about because of timing. What is your aftercare?
So, yeah.
I'm assuming you go back to Shrine, pero dices tú en ese momento con la adrenalina, dices, ahorita me los agarro a todos.
Oh, yeah. No. Aftercare is such an important part of the process, and a lot of times it can be overlooked and at the detriment to the artist. Because you carry that shit. If you don't have a decompression, a ritual to come out of it, it's gonna be in your body. It's gonna live in you, and a lot of these characters, the way they think is destructive. So it's nice to just give them their moment while you're at work, and then But yeah, it depends. Sometimes I'll go for a walk, and I'll count in intervals of 4. Maybe to like 100 or 200, like distraction exercises, which are really great. I do those things. Maybe I'll get a writing prompt and just kind of write shit out. Sometimes it's as simple as like, yo, I'm gonna go get my ass an ice cream. I'm gonna go like treat myself good, like do something that maybe I've been wanting to do and I haven't done in a while, and just love myself up there. Just remind myself that and there's other exercises that I do. Like distraction exercises are important for me because things are very visceral for me. Like when I experience things and I go into character, sometimes I go so deep that like I need the distraction, the distraction, and so I have these specific exercises that I do that was taught to me by a therapist, uh, and that are actually used for people who suffer from PTSD as a way to like just literally like these self-havening exercises that take the charge out of the amygdala and reroute it to the prefrontal cortex. So it's just like all about now I can think about shit. You know what I mean? Instead of, So that's that. Between those and treating myself good, I make a point to it. Like to me, the ritual out is just as important as the ritual in.
Yeah. Qué fuerte, amigas. I feel that feels a real good place. Como que decir, primero que nada, gracias.
Mm-hmm.
I think again, you being here is such a good conversation. I think it's also a lot of the own things, that I've been feeling, and so many of this season, just the Fruta Fresca episode, whatever it is. But we got, let me not get into it. I'm high now. But this season of Fruta Fresca just feels good in the sense of like the conversations have been so deep, and I'm humbled. And I'm grateful for everyone who's like come to these conversations. It's been so beautiful. Today, I feel like with you, I heard so much about ritual. I learned lessons that like home doesn't have to be a place, but it can be a feeling and a family and an experience. I've learned about the ritual, the service to audience, benevolence to state. It's great. I love it. So thank you.
Yeah,
I have to say thank you. I want to ask you, so what's next? What are you working on? We talked a little bit about Tokyo Cowboy. I don't know if you want to tell folks what you want to tell folks, what you can tell folks. I'm like, I don't know. What's the comportment one should have with artists like you? Dices, qué fuerte. But where can people follow you, watch you, todo?
So
¿Dónde te hablo? Dices. Ay, no, chica, para eso se paga. Ay, qué fuerte.
Yeah, I did. I have a movie called Tokyo Cowboy that I filmed last year. Right now, it's doing this film festival run. So, it'll probably come out sometime next year. The other details I'm not sure about it, but it's a good film. It's about like this Japanese corporate dude who, gets an opportunity to expand the business in the U.S. and a ranch in what is it, Montana, and he thinks he has it figured out. He goes there and realizes, man, like it's a whole different world, and so and then my character, we end up becoming friends, and yeah, it's a feel good movie, it's which is great because I do intense shit all the time. And then right now I'm working on, I have a movie a script that I wrote called To Be Loved. It's about a 13-year-old boy who runs away from an abusive mother with his artistically gifted little brother in search of a twin sister he never knew he had. And it's based off of real stuff, real experiences that I've gone through, me trying to work shit out, heal shit, and it's moving. I'm not trying to jinx it. There's people that are now involved that have changed the whole game of how it's developing. So,
but there's a very visceral emotion in everything you just said. And I think I don't know if I may. Sorry, I just realized that as I'm processing all this, that I'm so grateful to also be able to say I have a personal relationship with you. I think from what I've learned, the conversation we just had, knowing your work, I'm like, oh my God. Now I'm just thinking about your shrine in Montana. Now I'm just also thinking, I think one time, I don't know, whatever, I'm going to say it and we could edit it out if we feel like it. But I remember one time I texted you and you were like telling me about learning how to ride horses. And I was like, oh shit, that right? Because without getting into the details of it all, it was like that's something is work. You do what you got to do. This is what I'm exploring. And then seeing everything come, porque nosotros la vimos, amiga. I'm so excited. I'm gonna put una veladorita. Tokyo Cowboy deserves all the praise because it's a beautiful movie.
Thank you.
And just knowing a little bit of what I know now, I can only put the two and two together that I'm like, oh, this is emoting such a beautiful thing. And I'm sure people are going to love it and it's going to be successful. I believe it. And with this new work that you're writing, I think stayed integral to that. Let it be, let it evolve. Because when you said all that, and just the conversations that and knowing you, it did so much to me that I was like, beautiful. I'm excited.
Yeah,
let me know.
Of course,
support.
Of course.
Desde ahorita #1 fan. Well, maybe number 2, 3, because there's other folks también, and I don't want to get
yeah,
no me quiero pelear.
For sure.
I love that so much.
Yeah, it's I laughed and cried writing through every page. So I know this shit is good. Shit is good. So and then how they can reach me, you said, right?
Pues sí, ahí con que te sigan.
Just my name. Goya Robles. You can go on Instagram. I'm not on Facebook, but Instagram. That's about it.
Sí. I found out that people show on Facebook because I had my 10-year reunion and I got more Facebook notifications than I usually do. And I was like, oh, those are the people that I still have there. Okay, let me go do a purge. Qué fuerte. Bueno, ya para despedirnos, we're going to do something called las raspiditas. Okay. So I'm about to give you 2 options. You're just going to answer the first thing that comes to mind. This is always fun.
Okay.
Dices, ready?
Let's do it.
¿De día o de noche?
Noche.
¿La playa o el desierto?
La playa.
¿Arriba o abajo?
Arriba. I think so.
¿Con pelo o sin pelo?
Chacho, pero vamos a decir con pelo, pero cortadito, tú sabes. Por favor.
Qué fuerte. ¿Muerdes o rasguñas?
Muerde.
¿Me llamas o te llamo?
Yo te llamo.
¡Qué fuerte! Y me pusieron en mi lugar otra vez. Ay, no. # papi issues. That was hilarious. Oh, God, so good. Friends, thank you for coming. Goya, again, thank you. Ahorita te doy el abrazo y todo. Thank you so much for coming. This has been so beautiful. And thank you to all of you, friends. I hope que se tomaron un vinito, el churrito, lo que sea. Folks are driving from LA traffic. I hope at least we gave you a little bit of laughter. Thank you for listening to another episode of Fruta Fresca with Jose Richard Aviles. El chile pa' tu fruta. And today's fruta was pomegranate. Ay, qué fuerte. Sí, me gustó. Ya.